Good afternoon. Welcome to my first live. As I indicated, I'm going to be covering property. And yeah, I think what inspired this live was essentially I got a text from a friend or an email from a friend. I'll share it. I'm going to figure out all of these things, how to share screen and wara, you name it, right? And essentially, what he was asking me was, what do you think of this investment that I'm about to make? And I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm thinking, or kante dinsang, o ebile there, it's George. So dumela Moren. Um, yeah, as I was saying, when I just saw the spreadsheet, something just said to me, you know what, you have to record something on this. There are only so many people that you can speak to in private about these sort of things. There are only so many times that you can be on the phone with a friend and be like, the reason I don't like property is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think, just for disclosure's sake and to be 100% transparent, I don't have any particular problem with any particular asset or that sort of thing. I actually don't mind speaking to any investment. It's just every investment has got its place in a portfolio. Every investment has got its time, that sort of thing. There isn't always a time for shares, there's a time for other assets as well. So it's similar with property. I think the problem I had then with property, as I did say in my description, like with Forex or with crypto, except with property is really old, so it's difficult to understand why would that be the case. um, People would essentially just always treat it as if, yeah, but property is safe, don't worry about it. And you're there thinking, well, but do you understand that there's no such thing as a safe investment outside of analysis? Every single investment is down to analysis. Only after you've analyzed it can you say this specific investment today with these specific circumstances is safe. But just to universally say, yeah, but invest in property, it's safe, I found that grinding my teeth a bit, right? So I let that go. Time went, I've been investing forever for that matter. And I think where, again, it keeps popping up, and then where eventually I thought, no, I really have to do this. I recorded a video with my friend this week. I've since taken it down on request. I don't mind. Shout out to him. And I could see how the raw emotion was there for him. This was a real life experience that he went through, and he really regrets it. Obviously, if you're a smart human being, you're not going to regret hard experiences because they build you. But I always say, that's the mark of intelligence. It's not that you must go through hard things for you to prove that you're intelligent. It's to say the fact that you can look back and learn from hard experiences is proof that you are intelligent. I hope you can get that directional signaling. Going through tough ish doesn't make you intelligent. Learning from tough ish that you've gone through makes you uh, shows us that you're intelligent. But if we can, please avoid unnecessarily hard things. Some things are deleterious, especially from a finance perspective, which actually brings me to then today's topic and where I was going to start with it. As the headline says, property is the riskiest investment. And why did I finally decide that it's the riskiest investment? Simple thing. If you invest in shares, you can lose all your money. And that's painful and that's considered risky because nobody likes to lose all their money. I think that was the last straw that made me consider this is exactly why property would be the riskiest investment around. Because unlike with any other investment, nobody comes to you with other investments and says to you, you're 25 years old, you've been working for 3 months, 6 months, a year, however long you want to justify taking a risk on a 25-year-old. Give me your last 3 months bank statement, and based on that, I'm gonna give you $1 million worth of debt. And from the conversation I was having with Mpo, I think what hit me was, and then a year or 2 years down the line, when you decide that you know what, this is not working out anymore, I don't want the property anymore. It's the loan has incurred interest, so much so that there's no way that you're not underneath. We all know that you break even with property only after 7 years. So effectively, what we're doing with property for young people, we essentially saying, here's a pair of chains, fight, and if you win, you get to own an asset, because that's what we say, right? At the end of it all, you own an asset. If you lose, chances are you're indebted to me for a very long time. And I'm gonna look at some numbers. As I said, it's a live, it's my first live. So it's gonna be very difficult to share screen. I can't even see where the share screen feature is. I'm seeing all sorts of things pop out, dashboard, send feedback. Um, yeah, so I don't think I can even share screen. If you guys know how to do that, please do put it in the comments. Otherwise, yeah, I'll just have to put it up on my side and then just talk you through the numbers. So as I said, the spreadsheet that I have, so I've opened the spreadsheet. It was essentially the straw that broke the camel's back. And I'm gonna put it on the side here because I've got two screens. Let me just put the screen beside so that when I'm looking that way, nah, it's fine. You guys, I think it's better you see that I read. It's a school, guys. The other angle closes out the book, so then now it makes it look like I'm ignorant. And I know somebody will one day watch this and be like, yeah, but what does he know? So if I leave the books there, that's minimum what I know. I've got 3 or 4 libraries. That's just one of them. Yeah. So my friend sends me the spreadsheet and essentially says, what do you think? And I have let him know that, look, I'm going to be going through your spreadsheet live. I haven't looked at it in its entirety, but the first 2 lines that I saw, they immediately threw me off. I got sick. Like, I immediately looked at that and I thought, how on earth do I look at this and then say to somebody that, oh, this is a good investment? Go for it, buddy. You know, unless there's something else in the rest of the spreadsheet that I get to see that can then convince me that, oh, you actually getting income, for example, that surpasses these costs, and therefore this is what makes it um, a good investment. So I'm gonna go through it with you for the way that I see it, and then if my opinion changes for this particular property, I would be glad, because I hate to pop bubbles. I hate to be the person that brings bad news. But if it doesn't change, I think you'll see my face getting redder and redder. You'll see my eyes getting red. You'll hear me getting angrier and angrier. I am trying to get into this podcasting thing where you're supposed to be calm and just present the facts as they are, be uninvolved, whatever. But sometimes these financial items hit me so much. There's no way I can hold it in and be. There's no way I can watch somebody f up their life and then I'm relaxed. Or, oh no, but don't worry, guys. It's just finance. Tune in next week. I'm gonna be covering something else. Like, if something really looks dumb or looks like no way, like this is legal, I have to show that. Yeah, well, so essentially the property is a 540,000 rand property. I know that because that's the opening balance. So I've got an amortization table in front of me, which is just a fancy way of saying I've got the starting amount that the property is for. Then I've got 20 years on the side, and then I'm showing what happens to the amount that I owe the bank as time passes. So I can already tell you that on in year 13, this person will be owing the bank 316,000, and the interest that they will be incurring is 25,000 rand, and they'll still be making payments of 55,000, meaning about roughly 30,000 rand is going towards the bond at this point, right? So yeah, and I see George, they saying, go ahead, Chairman, fully express yourself. Thank you very much for that, Mechon. Yeah, I'm not ready for this. So going through this, First things first. So you see a property that you like, 540,000 rand. You don't have cash to buy it, and the bank says, "Listen, don't worry about it. I'll borrow you the cash." Right? The rationale makes sense. And anyway, I have to pay rent. So at least in this case, I get to own the asset at the end of my rent paying days. I'm as smart as you guys. I understand that. I haven't invented finance at that point. Right? That's the basic transaction. You then get into this transaction, and this is what it looks like as you're getting in. So the first thing that you have is I see here is what we call transfer costs, right? And in bracket, there's a once off, right? And I think estate agents will correct me in the comments, right? Apparently, if you're buying a property that's less than 1 million, you don't have to pay transfer costs, unless I think that only applies if you're buying it from a developer. So if it's a property that you're seeing standing, you're not buying it from a developer. Zia Shababa. So first things first, you haven't even done anything. Nah. I live in my apartment, you live in your apartment, you decide you're tired of paying the landlord's rent, so therefore you're gonna buy the apartment. Let's assume it's that same apartment, so none of us are leaving. Immediately, just because you decided to own it, there's already a 40,000 rand cost that you must pay, which is transfer costs off the bat. I'm sitting there and I'm like, why? Obviously, we'll explain it away. Everything has its admin fees, everything has its whatever costs of admin. Yeah, get the admin fee, whatever. Guys, 40,000 rand. Like 40,000 rand. Get out of here. Anyway, obviously, you're going to justify paying the 40,000 rand, right? You 25. Let's say you 30 for that matter. I don't know many 30-year-olds that have got 40,000 rand waiting around just so that they can change the fact that now I'm no longer renting. I own this. Yeah, bro. That's number one. Let me check if there's someone at the gate. Nope. That's number one. But lo and behold, let's assume that you're that for 30-year-old, then you do have the 40,000 rand, especially because we give you all sorts of what do you call it? All sorts of pats on the back and what have you for being a responsible um, 30-year-old. So it's fine. We shake your hand. Well done, buddy. You're a property owner. We come, housewarming, homonate. We give you a toaster. We give you a welcome mat. We give you another toaster because we don't talk to each other. Or, hey, what are you getting him? Okay, let me get him something else. Now you have two toasters. You take one to Cash Crusaders. They give you less than what you paid for it. You're a bit annoyed, but what's one? At least it can buy ice cream. Obviously, I'm deviating. I come back. So now you've paid 40,000 rand. I'm already angry, by the way, but I'm doing a very good job keeping calm because that's the first cost. Now you're my next door neighbor and you've paid 40,000 rand and rent for that month because it's not yet in your name. I've also paid rent for that month. Sharp. Then I see here we've got legal costs of 3,000. Oh, this looks familiar. I think this was Mpo's example. That was for drawing up the rental contract, that sort of thing. So I'll leave that alone. Sharpo, you've paid 40,000 rand. Where immediately I got angry. So back to the property value of 540 that you've now paid 40,000 rand to is still valued at 540. You still owe the bank 540. Let's assume there's no other costs. That's all that you've paid. I think if I remember, Mpo said he had paid something like 72,000 rands worth of costs. So there was the transferring attorney, then there was the commission on the sale of the property. In other words, the value of the costs just kept going up. But we ignore those costs because nobody ever says, I bought this house for 2.4 million rand, but there was 100,000 rand cost. So actually, I bought it for 2.5 million rands. Let's ignore those. Let's do the actual numbers on the repayment of the bond. In year one, I see that there's interest of 43,200, and I see that that's because we assumed an interest rate of 8%. Again, even then, highly unlikely. I know if you're banking with Investec, you're gonna get a rate of prime -1, and I'm not sure if that's just for vehicles or that also includes housing finance. So already, if prime is at 11.75%, you're going to be paying 10.75%. But I'll keep the example of 8% because I'm a nice guy. A shit investment will be a shit investment no matter what interest rate you use, right? Well, not really. The interest is the whole point. Now you're paying 43,200 in interest and your repayments are 55,000 Rand for the year. Closing balance is 528,000, right? George is saying it's just an example percentage. Hardy, my friend, I'm not throwing you under the bus. Now you've paid 55,000 Rand. Interest is 43,200. And your balance is now 528,000, right? No problem with that. Let's see what happens in year two. And by the way, a year is January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Let's maybe put it another way. A year is the first broke month where all of us are just fighting to get to the first payday. First payday comes, then you've got Valentine's Day. Either Wajola on the side or Wajola in front of you in real life, or how jolly, but you're in the spirit of Valentine's. There's that, right? Then March, what events happen March? Oh, it's those long weekends, Human Rights Day, all of that sort of thing. April. No, I'm not digressing this time, Tebza. You'll see where this is important. April, you've got Easter. Those of you that are from Limpopo, get it toll gate, get petrol, or whatever to go visit home. The Eastern Cape, Asakulum. I don't know anyone from Cape Town. Then that's April. May is the other side of the long weekend. We'll forgive you, there's nothing. We just come back from the long weekend and then we go into June. June is June 16, another long weekend. July is a quiet month. My birthday month, whew, nobody twenias you. In fact, when the Reserve Bank and government and the finance sector saw July, they were like, yeah, you know what? Let's make that savings month. It's not savings month. There's no holidays in July. So on a choice, you are gonna save unless you go out of your way to spend money. Then there's August. August, I don't even want to say. By the way, we look at May and June. There's Father's Day and Mother's Day. I forgot them. Hey, sorry, mom, dad. I still love you guys. There's those. The reason why I'm actually breaking it down in so much detail is because I just want us to comprehend when we say after a year, you have paid 55,000 Rand. Your interest is 43,200 and your remaining balance is 528,000, right? Meaning that your bond has gone down by 12,000 Rand. That's fine. We're still cool by now. Year two of 20. In year two of 20, same thing. This year interest went down by 1,000 Rand. Well, because you reduced your what's this? You reduced your bond value. So now we're sitting at an opening balance of 528,000, interest of 42,255, and a payment of 55,000 again. So this person is paying roughly 4,800 Rand or 4,500 per month for this property. I actually wonder where this property is, by the way. The prices they're quite suspicious. Yeah, well, youngins are not staying in apartments that cost 4.5, but we'll take it. Now 2 years has passed. You've paid your 555,000 again. The remaining balance, just a reminder, this calculation is without the multiple increase of repo. It's fine, my friend. I don't have my medication here. So if we're gonna put repo rate increases inside this calculation, tabumbola, you'll be killing me. So let's keep it as a vanilla transaction, right? Already we are charging half the interest rate that we would have charged. So already interest there, yeah, 43,000, it actually should be 60,000, because if the interest that we have is missing the other half, go bad. What hits me here now, and this is where I called George, I was like, Chief, what do you want me to do with this spreadsheet again? It's the end of year two. We have paid another 55,000. So that's 110,000 rand that we've paid, right? The interest that we have paid is 43,200 plus 42,255, which is 87,255. The remaining balance is 515,455 and 60 rand, right? That means that in 2 years, you have celebrated Valentine's Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Women's Day, Heritage Day, Easter, you name it. Ne? You have paid 110,000 rand, and your debt has only gone down by 35,000 rand. This is where I personally lost it. It might be nothing to you, but hear me out. Ne? I don't know of any other investment where you say to somebody, here's 110,000 rands, they give you 35,000 rands 2 years later. And you say, that's okay. This is the safest investment. At the end of year 20, I'll be fine. Like, there's no universe in which that makes sense. And what's sad for me, and why I stop at year two, because it's ridiculous already. And I'm not gonna take you through all 20 years and then whatever. So luckily I know that my heart rate is gonna be taken care of. But for the sake of conversation, right? After 2 years already, what I was looking at is it's already ridiculous. You've paid 110,000 and you only have 35,000 worth of value back towards you. Now, I've had scenarios where we discussed the fact that if it's a property that you're living in, it's a lot better because you will have had to pay rent anyway, right? Meaning that me who was paying rent, I've just paid 110,000 rand and it's gone with the wind. You who has paid 110,000 rand, at least you've got 35,000 rand worth of value back. So at least you have something back for your efforts, right? And where I call bullshit is, did you forget that we took 70,000 rand at the beginning and just set it aside? We just said ignore that because that's not what the agent said the house costs. But those are all transaction costs that actually come from somewhere. Somebody must have paid those amounts. That somebody is you. So I don't understand how, again, I couldn't understand at 110,000 rand paid. Now, if we add the 72,000, I don't understand it even more. Paying 180,000 rand and getting 35,000 rand back 2 years later. And we look at that and we say, that's the safest investment. If you don't want to lose money, go into property. Where it grinds my teeth, apparently the more correct expression, English expression, is something else. I don't have the body parts that it grinds, right? Is the fact that by the end of 2 years, most graduate programs would be ending then. And now, at the end of that 2 years, we're both sitting there and you are hoping that the company is going to retain you. It's not a secret that South Africa has got quite a racist hiring culture. Over and above racism is the fact that our GDP is just not growing. So most of the time, if 4 or 5 of you or 4 or 5 of us came into the company as interns, chances are 3 of us at the end of our internship are not going to be kept, 2 of us are going to be kept, or 1 of us are going to be kept. So now if you, the 25-year-old with 2 years of internship under your belt, with this property, having already paid 180,000 rand, like, I still don't understand the part where 180,000 rand has already gone out. An intern salary, if I'm correct, is about 120,000 rand a year, if that's a good internship, I'm talking not even discovery and sorry discovery or send me the actual amount so that I can say it, right? Not even discovery is paying 120,000 rand for an internship program because that's 10,000 rand a month, meaning that this intern has used more than half of their salary. This generous intern that is getting 10,000 rand a month. If I remember correctly, in audit, that wasn't even my starting. I think my salary was 7,600 when I was starting out in audit. So this intern, you get the gist of how much money he has spent, how much money 180,000 rand is to an intern, right? This person has basically spent it. I don't know how, I don't know what they've been eating, I don't know how they've been traveling. All I know is that I don't want to bump into this guy at a football game or at a drinks or a get together and I say to them, Eshinjam, I forgot my wallet at home. Can you cover this? Because I think to them, it's not gonna sound like I forgot my wallet at home. Can you cover this? I think it's going to sound something along the lines of my dumb friend that bought property, would you please further make a dumb decision and pay for your friend's bill? Which is something that I'm not saying because, in all honesty, I did forget my wallet at home. Like, Jam, can you pay for it? I'll cover it. What have you? But I'm saying that's the level of stress I would imagine this intern is under at the end of year two while he's waiting for the company that trained him for 2 years to tell him that he's good enough to work for them or not with a property, right? This in turn, I really digress there. This in turn has now got a loan of 515,455 at the beginning of the year that he owes the bank, of which if he does not pay it, they are going to repossess the property. They are going to tarnish his credit record because he's a defaulter on a loan or on a credit facility or whatever. And he's gonna now go and have to pay this amount back without the house. In what universe does that make sense? In what universe is that not risky? In what universe is that even fair? Is that even legal? What I haven't even spoken about, I was speaking to another friend during the week, and she was telling me about how with her first property, the balcony was leaking and it was leaking into the bottom unit, and the bottom unit had wooden floors. So every time it rained, the balcony would leak in such a way that the water would go into the that particular room of the unit beneath, and it would essentially damage the wooden floors to the extent that the owner of the bottom unit sued them upstairs for damage to that property. Like, the previous owner, when they were selling this property, they would have told the estate agent why they're selling the property. Why is it not illegal to not disclose that to the poor 23-year-old that is starting the internship? Let's say go discover, even though they'll dream of paying that amount of money. Why is the poor child not told that, by the way, this property that looks like it's a bargain, it's actually got the following defects? Other things were things like while she was waiting for the property to transfer, it turns out that the geyser is in the ceiling and there's like a tray or some shit like the spillover tray for when the geyser is overheating or when it's overflowing, was essentially dripping into that, and that was getting fuller and fuller. And then number one, it's making the ceiling damp. But number two, the geyser ultimately burst. And now this poor person that has put the house on the market has to now also fix the geyser and the ceiling on top of that. Again, these are things that the estate agent is not even required to disclose. And if they're required to disclose it, well, whoever is a lawyer that is watching this, just know they're not doing it in South Africa. For some reason, they're not doing it. Yeah, well, and many other defects like this. I know things like cracked walls that I've seen where I wanted to paint a wall. The paint is nice and cheap. It's I think 420 for 20 liters of white paint. When the contractor comes, he says, "No, you see this crack? It's a structural crack. So I can't just put like the cement on top of it and then paint on top of it. I actually have to open the bricks and then put a reinforcing wire behind and then put cement and then I can paint over it. Now a painting job that's supposed to cost 5 to 10,000 rands ends up costing 50 to 60,000 rands. Why is this not disclosed when you're buying the property? To say no, all you're gonna need to do is fix it up for an additional 200,000 rand. Now the intern buying this property can know that listen, it's 540,000 rand for a reason, because you're still gonna spend another 200,000 rand in fix ups and damages that need to be done, which again speaks to the riskiness of property with a company. Or I don't even want, I'm avoiding comparing it to other investments that I like. Actually, let me stay on brand, on example, right? With any other asset that you buy, chances are the price that you're paying is because the asset is in that condition. You're probably paying 3,500 rand for a second-hand laptop because it's a second-hand laptop, but it's gonna continue to function as a laptop. Why is it with property that you are paying 540,000 because the previous owner wanted to cover what they had paid, but over time the property has gained even more damage, meaning that you're getting a worse off property than the previous owner had, but the price is still the same, and you're gonna do the same to the next person. It's unethical. There's no other way of putting it. Like if you sell a property that's damaged, it's unethical. The court should actually say, no, you now, the last owner that discovered this damage, you can't sell it forward, going forward, because the damages are so bad that if you sell it to somebody else, it's reckless trading. It's like selling expired food in a supermarket. You can't do that. And that's because it's going to kill people. Why are you allowed to sell expired property? This person now owes the bank 515,000. Where are they going to get it? They're not gonna get it. Now you've just indebted this poor trainee essentially for life. And I know there's that there's credit risk cover, there's life insurances that you take out on the property to cover the bank in the event of the risk, but they're selling the property for a profit while the value is worse, and it's insane. Exactly, it's evil. It's unethical and evil. Like it's good and well to be in sub-Saharan Africa and make a living from cheating one another. The survival of the fittest. I get one knocker, and then the person that knocks the other person more will eventually get to survive this life thing. But in all honesty, that shit is killing us. Like, there's no way that we can be okay with the fact that you can actually sell defective assets in our country, and then we expect our economy to be doing well. Like, you just, whew, I'm not a question, guys. Especially things like what's the weather, uh, how do you, don't ask me how do you feel today, because just this example alone is making me angry. Like I haven't even added things like insurance, levies. Um, there's so many costs that I see here. Deposit, all of those other things. Like I'm ready to take questions at this point, but I think you get the gist of what I'm saying and why I say I'm comfortable to say that property is the riskiest investment out there. I've got 9 points that I look at when I look at an investment. I'm not even gonna go through them because the video is already longer than I would have liked in terms of a monologue. I would have appreciated that we can have time for dialogue, time for engagement, that sort of thing. Yeah, those other things, they'll just main things that I wanna point out. Sasuga nje, ne? You are buying something where where the seller doesn't have to disclose its condition, and you just have to believe that with your eyes and lack of engineering expertise, you can spot all those things. I see George says, but with general items, if it's defected, you can return to the seller. Correct. Why can't we do the same for property? The lawyers that I've spoken to say that there's things called latent defects. and those you actually they're allowed to undo a property sale. But something like rain, for example, if you bought a property in March or Feb or April, we are now sitting in September, which has been autumn, winter, and then now we in spring, and spring is a bit late because there's a cold front. I get 6 months has passed without you getting heavy rains, meaning that you wouldn't have seen that the roof is actually leaking heavily. So now you'd have passed your 6 months window period of seeing if there are latent defects. As I say, with that balcony, you would not have had an opportunity to see that, oh, by the way, this property that you're buying, it's actually leaking into the bottom neighbors, or whatever, because the winter months, it doesn't rain as much. And we can even flip it the other way. If we then say buy a house in summer, which is what people tend to do, it's fine. You buy it in summer. How many people actually, after moving into a house, throwing a house warming, that sort of thing, go back and say, you know what, this house has got latent defects. I want to take it back. Bank, give me my 570,000 rand back or 180,000 rand back. Almost nobody does that. Yeah, well, so from a pragmatic perspective, you're not really going to give back the property. Most people just suck it up. Most people, I've been in houses where there's a bucket underneath a leaking roof or a leaking ceiling. Dear Lord, the poor bucket. Like the bucket is basically carrying the family from drowning. Bucket, the 20 liter ya plus con. That's what's keeping the family from drowning. That's what's protecting your room divider. Yako Louis, your furniture, Yako Louis that you bought on credit that you are paying off over 24 months. The thing that is keeping those things from getting mold and getting wet because your roof is leaking is a 20 liter used Plascon bucket. Bucket that you Google. Guys. That's number one. So you are buying something that is not even what it says on the sticker. Number two, why it's risky is because you're getting it on credit, i.e., as we've just calculated, over 2 years, you pay 180,000 rand, but you've only built 35,000 rand of value. I'm not even gonna do the maths to show you that if you were to take 180,000 rand and put it in some other investments where you can do just a bit more research, you would have, first of all, your 180,000 rand. Number two, you would have the return on top of that. In this case, you don't even have a return, you have a value of 35,000 rand. All you did was you took 180,000 rand and you burned 150,000 rand, and now you left with 30,000 rand. And you're happy that whenever people visit you, you get to tell them that I own it. Do you understand that if you come visit me in your flat next door and I'm telling my guests that, oh, I bought this thing last year, nobody's ever going to say to me, oh, show me the title deed. Like they're going to believe me that I own it as well. Like, do you understand that if you lie to your family members and tell them or you own the flat that you're renting in Gauteng, they're actually going to believe you? Do you actually understand that? So you actually, if owning property is what makes you a man or ruhudile, is the fact that you have now taken on added responsibility or whatever. Do you understand that you can actually lie about that and save yourself 150,000 rand? And nobody will ever say, can I see your title deed? Of which even the other person next door, by the way, if you say to them, can I see your title deed? It's not with them, it's with the bank. The bank is only gonna give you the title deed after you've paid it off, after 20 years. So in year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, year 11, you and I are both renting. I'm just renting from the bank and you're just renting from a thing, Mpo, or vice versa. You're renting from the bank, I'm renting from Mpo. When I'm tired of this place because of whatever, I got married. I pack my bags, I leave. If you wanna pack your bags and leave, wherever you're going, you're gonna pay rent for that place, and you must cover rent for this one while it's still on the market for you to be able to leave, which is a liquidity issue, which are things I said I'm not going to touch on. As I said, yeah, for me, it just doesn't make sense in that regard, especially when you're young, because the minute you buy property when you're young, you basically tied down. There's no way where you can go for the next 20 years until that item is paid off or until your salary increases so much that you can afford to actually get a second place or not move to another place while covering a first bond. As I say, I've read the statistics. I've been a 20-year-old myself. Um, the statistics don't look good. We're not that wealthy en masse. 60, 70, 80% of us, of the people, ba re groovang le bona, you're just not making enough that you can sustain that level of looking good for having made a bad financial decision in the name of you learning responsibility or you growing or it's an investment or whatever. Like I 100% am willing to say property is a scam. I'm willing to say I actually would like to see, and that's actually why we had the 2008 financial crisis, because you had banks that were sitting with mortgages that they were saying this is A quality, B quality, C quality, right? And smart investors, by the way, this is going to be the quickest time that you ever understand what happened in 2008. What smart investors did, they said, let me see all the A quality loans that this bank has. So let's say ABSA. Let's say I have a friend at ABSA. Friend, please go into your guys' loan book, whatever, and send me the Excel spreadsheet for all your A quality mortgages or A quality clients, right? Friend obviously says, friend, I can't do that. It's a breach of ethical information, what. Then I say, Mitchell, you know I'm not going to tell anyone, what. Then says, let me see what I can do. And then they change the name of the file from mortgage loan book and they change it to something like whatever, car sales. And then the IT system, George is in IT, and then the IT system doesn't pick up that, oh, by the way, this is actually just a changed name. This is actually our loan book. Long story short, they send it to their personal email. From their personal email, people that are even more risk conscious, they put in a USB. From the USB, they then come to my house. Not me, by the way. I don't have any friends that have done this anyway. I don't even have friends that work at APSA. If you have a friend of mine that works at APSA, I'll send it to Mark, by the way. But I don't have any friends that work at APSA. Comes to my house with a USB, gives me the USB because nobody can trace a USB. Puts it in my laptop, I open it, and here are all of APSA's clients. I mean, I'm analyzing 670 stock market companies, whatever, that are listed on the JSE. I can handle a lot of information. I can handle a lot of thing. And that's what makes an investor an investor. The fact that I'm willing to actually do the work, to actually get to the bottom of, is this the quality that it says it is, right? I see the physical addresses there and I decide, let me go and visit 10 of these people that are here, that are A grade. I go, person number one, find out that no, actually what they did was they got a payslip for the months where they got a bonus. All right. Or for the months where they got overtime. So that artificially bumped up their income. That's person number one. Release. Person number two, yes, there was the income, but they changed jobs to a lower job because either they got fired or it rained or whatever reason people change jobs, right? That's person number two. Person number three got a promotion. Let's be positive. Person number three got a promotion. So they really are A grade. Do you know what person number three did? Person number three has an item, a checklist. At 26, I bought a property. Tick. At 28, I bought my dream car. So now when you look at person number B's bank statement, yes, they've got the mortgage, but now they've got a whatever Golf GTI going off. Let's not even say GTI because not many GTIs are around anymore. If you actually have noticed, GTI we finally have accepted Yatura. There's a Golf FSI 2 liter on the. Are they still FSIs or is it me that doesn't know cars? You can see that this person can clearly not afford. Like this person that the bank calls A grade is literally one rate hike away from defaulting on the property. This person is they're buying groceries of 1,000 rand. At this point, they're eating noodles for scuffing in the name of I've ticked off my bucket list at 28, that sort of thing. And you go through the list of doing that, which is what they did in 2008. And the long and short of it was that most loan books are not the quality that they say they are, meaning that any moment this person is about to default, this person is about to skip their mortgage payment. And basically, they then said that that means that ABSA is overvalued. Let's short them, whatever. Obviously, by the way, as I said, I've never looked at the spreadsheets of ABSA. I could have used Standard Bank, FNB, Old Mutual, all of the banks. It's just an example. ABSA's legal team, please don't get excited. Like, take an example. Like, and if your loan book is good, please publish it. And then I can factually see, okay, I didn't defame your character like sharply. I spoke truth. But it's essentially that. So you look at that, and then you get to see that actually this property is a safe investment thing. Nike warning, guys, the numbers are saying otherwise. The numbers are saying otherwise. If I put 180,000 rand in the stock market and I had 35,000 rand after 2 years to show for it, I would stop investing because clearly I'm a very bad investor. Like, even if you tell me that I'm gonna own the asset after 20 years, like I'm gonna ask myself, but after 20 years, George did the calculation here. I would have paid 1.1 million. Why would I take 20 years to own a 500,000 rand asset that makes me live katsipa my whole life compared to I just put that money aside and I've got 1.1 million factually. Obviously, things that come into hand is things like nobody's discipline is that good. So, us that don't own property, it's not like we're saving 5,000 rand a month. And I take that, right? But I can tell you now, any month you take my cholesterol, I'm not worried about Lesija Khanyago. Like, I'm not worried about what if I lose my job and then now am I gonna be unemployed for more than 3 months? Like, do you understand 3 months to default in a 20-year period? How stupid that is. Like, that's the bank just saying that, listen, I'm just passing time before you now are a debtor and I go resell the house to somebody else because I get that's what happens after you default on your mortgage. We resell the house to somebody else. So you continue to owe me while somebody else is paying me for the same asset. As I said, I can't even talk to the ethics of property ownership. For 20 years, where I was going with the young people thingamabob, and I'm sad it took me so long to get there as well, right? At 25, if the first time I'm gonna be free to essentially start taking on another risk is 20 years from now, let's say 15 years for that matter, just to be generous, because at some point your salary gets nice enough that you really can start affording and it's comfortable. And the reason why I'm not comfortable saying that is because that's not the reality. With a 70% unemployment rate, the days of your life is gonna look good the older you get. From a financial modeling perspective for South Africa, they don't exist. Like in South Africa, if I do a financial model of someone who is entering a management role for the next 10 years, this obvious you are going to get promotions along the way does not happen. You do have junior managers that have been junior managers for 10 years and they're going to continue to be junior managers because that's another conspiracy altogether. The concept of career no longer exists. Like the minute you need to get a promotion and go to the next level, why don't we just outsource this service to China? Or why don't we just outsource this service to Finance Hut because they specialize with risk management? We pay them once off 50,000 and then we don't have to be paying this person an extra 5,000 rand salary until they get their next promotion. Like there's a whole lot of scenarios that go into why companies in South Africa don't necessarily follow the normal career ladder, right? Versus something that like the United States where unemployment rate is at 2%, meaning that if you want to get someone to do a job higher than me, they're not there in the market because they're employed. You have to train me and then I get my promotion. In South Africa, I just go get that person. They're probably sitting at home with a master's in engineering. Why must I then promote you who got the honors? You came in, you come into work at 9, you leave on Friday at 12. Yambora. Anywho, 20 years to pay off the house. Nah. Let's say everything goes smoothly. You telling me that the next financial risk or decision that you're gonna be taking is at 45 or 40 if I use 15 years, because the last 5 years of your life was nice now. Well, now you're a big money spender, big guy, nice shoes. So you're gonna wait till 40, where you're gonna take your next risk in life, where what your peers are doing in China, in America, in Nigeria for that matter, in Rwanda, in Zimbabwe, they're moving. Banyagaza. They're trying this, they're trying that. If you ask them, why don't you buy property? No, I'm not gonna do that. It's gonna tie me down. I literally have a friend that has worked in Russia for 7 years and come back in Marar. She's only 30 now. And when you tell her about the concept of her buying and owning property, first of all, the mere fact that she studied in Russia and I didn't, she gives you the look, ya gore, like, why are you not enjoying the fact that you have the opportunity to be a global citizen? You know, when we say travel the world, we're not just saying go to Thailand and take a picture in front of that ugly rock. Sorry, Thailand, I'm not defaming your country again. My God, Karohana, guys, sorry. I did say that as the time goes, I'm gonna get angry and more annoyed. When we say travel, one of the things that I would be sad about if I turn 40, having never worked in Rwanda or Kenya or Ghana or Nigeria, even Tanzania, because I will have no excuse where in my lifetime we had what we call the African lion economies, where we Rwanda the fastest growing economies, but the 25-year-old accountants and engineers and IT specialists of South Africa are not going to work in Rwanda. Like, in a level complacent, in a level, what makes you think you're gonna be relevant 10 years from now if you're not playing with your continental peers? You know, 3D printer. When are we gonna own 3D printers? A 3D printer is about 70,000 rand. I'm talking about a good quality one, right? If you wanna be printing shoes, if you wanna be printing components for cars, that sort of thing. When are you gonna play with it if you're busy paying the bank 180,000 rand for the oldest asset class that they've now turned into a bomb? We are there, we are 35, we are taking risks of going into the Tanzanian jungle to go and see whatever, Max the gorilla. Guys, no, I can't travel. You know, I own property. That time you're talking about a leaking building somewhere just next to Senten, next to Midrand somewhere. And it's not, as I say, it's not discouraging property ownership itself. It's discouraging the financial instrument property. The concept that as a property owner, you are in the safest asset class in the world and everything is hunky dory, you know, where you're gonna get the above market rent. Guys, I don't know questions. As I say, those are things that I wanna play with, and I look at that and I don't think that I would want to tie myself to the bank for the next 10, 20 years in the name of this is the safest asset class. For me, the safest asset class is knowledge. It's exposing yourself to the economies of the future. I mean, right up above our border, just over Venda, and you guys know how much I love Venda, right? Just over Venda, like 100, 200 kilometers away, you have Zimbabwe, right? It's fine. We grew up laughing at Zimbabwe. The last 20 years haven't been the best. Wara wara, bread basket, hey, hey, what? Do you understand that Zimbabwe uses US dollars to trade? Some of us have never held a US dollar bill in the hand like this, you know? And because you've tied yourself down to some C grade nonsense, go Bram or go Midrand, You can't even say, you know what, let me go and work in Bulawayo for 2 years, see how it is, and then come back and I will still buy that crap property. However, the difference is that now you learn how to price your skill in dollars. You're doing the same thing, just 200 kilometers north. A lot of people are fighting already. They want to get a job in Cape Town. Wara, 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 wara. Cape Town is 1,200 kilometers that way. Né? From Pretoria, by the way. If you're watching this in Cape Town, please don't go 1,200 kilometers into the sea. There are white sharks, they're going to die. Us in Pretoria, if I go 1,200 kilometers down, I'm in Cape Town. And I think it's about 1,800 actually. 1,002 is PE, George, and them. So 1,800 kilometers, almost 2,000 kilometers, right? So I'm willing to go 2,000 kilometers down for work. If I go 2,000 kilometers up instead of down from where I am, I'm in the DRC. First of all, I'm in a country that speaks another language, French, which colors the quality of me now as a global citizen so much better, right? Number two, I'm in a place that uses US dollars for trade, meaning that if South Africa used to pay me 100 rand for my labor, and we all know they're underpaying me for that, now I get to a place where I can charge $50 for the same labor, but $50 is now 2,000 rand for the same thing, just changing the currency. And because of the better demand, I'll say better demand, by virtue of changing the currency, my salary has shot up. Same University of Pretoria qualification, same expertise, my value has just gone up because now I can transact in dollars. The reason why I choose the DRC, it could easily have landed in Angola, or Equatorial Guinea, somewhere there, or Tanzania, this side. As I say, maybe or Kenya, you're very close to Kenya, Djibouti, you name it, those countries. If I go even the other way, you're even getting closer to Mauritius or Madagascar, that sort of thing, right? But the reason I chose DRC, over and above the language and the currency, the DRC is currently the most mineral rich country in the world. That is where Tesla is mining their batteries. That is where Apple is getting the cobalt or titanium. I saw the Apple 15, same great phone, but now with titanium, double the price or some nonsense like that, right? Wouldn't you want to be in the hub of global economies? Wouldn't you want to be with your skill that you got here in South Africa? Be learning actually what is this business about the commodities that are running the world, the future commodities. Because if there's anything that history has taught us, if you want to be a wealthy person in your lifetime, I don't like to speak about the richest person. I never compare myself to Buffett, Bill Gates, Warren, them rich people, right? I always just compare myself to my goals. And one of the things I say is I can and may deserve to live a good, very good quality life for the education that I have. Now, you just add to that education a cultural melting pot of economies that are buying all sorts of minerals. Have you ever been to a harbor? Take a trip to the harbor. Like, for once, don't take a holiday that shows your winter body. Nah. Take a trip to an economic hotspot in South Africa or not, right? But for the sake of this example, I'm using the DRC, so out of South Africa, and just go and see what an economy looks like, where orders from all over the world are coming in for the resource that they have to offer there. Like, listen to how the people speak, listen to the quality of their lives, read their energy, read their mood, read their body structures, understand what is it that these people go through to be able to carry the world's iPhone production on their back, to be able to carry the China's copper demand on their back, Tesla's lithium demand on their back. Then you get to appreciate what does it mean when we then say the youth must take on entrepreneurial opportunities in South Africa. Because now when you come back with that sort of experience at 30, at 28, and you sit in Joburg and you think, okay, I've got 19 trillion worth of the JSE in terms of capital. I've got all sorts of formalization of the economy in the world in South Africa, because South Africa is apparently the gateway to the world. And now the Department of Mineral Resources, or the IDC, the Industrial Development Corporation, says we're looking for young industrialists to head our industrialist program. You're not talking about manufacturing t-shirts, you know? You're not talking about what innovations are even coming out of us as the youth. Like, do you understand where our business ideas are semi-pop? Like, we haven't exposed ourselves to what is the world currently bidding for. Yeah, well, and for me, it's those sort of things when I say that, when I look at just taking your clean, good name, and that's another thing, by the way, guys, to be 26 with 3 or 4 years work experience, two of which was an internship, and to be able to qualify for a bond of R1 million, that is a serious flex. Having been born in sub-Saharan Africa, which is the poorest part of the poorest continent on earth, to have lifted yourself out of poverty to a level where a white bank is willing to borrow you R1 million, either it's too good to be true, either you actually need to be patting yourself on the back for the tremendous job that you have done to lift yourself out of the dire situation that you were born into. Instead of taking that prime position and then enjoying it, most of us watch football. How many times do we see a youngster sign for Real Madrid or Man City or Man United too soon, and then we say he threw away his career? Meanwhile, when you are the 26-year-old, that's going to allow ABSA to give you a, sorry, ABSA. Let me use NetBank. Let's have a multi-bank lawsuit. You're going to allow NetBank or FNB to give you an interest rate, yeah, 10%, 12%, and lock you down for the next 20 years. And then you look at Jude Bellingham or you look at Sancho and you say he threw away his career. When I'm 26, you don't look at yourself and say, I threw away my career. I threw away my options. I threw away my optionality. We need to be a bit more serious in that regard. But yeah, property, or now, as I say, I'm 100% comfortable it's the riskiest asset based on that two criteria that I put, and nobody can convince me otherwise. The fact that you don't have to disclose the defects for such a huge asset, and then number two, the fact that yeah, the if you look at the loan books, you're gonna default. You're more likely to default. You look at the loan books and the GDP and the experience that I've just spoken of. And a 26-year-old Congolese has seen Tesla and China bidding for the resources. Where now you're in a mineral rich country, you've never even been to Rustenburg to see what the competition is like for platinum there. Chances are your salary doing this or your promotions doing this. And for those of you that burn candles and are children of the Most High, I'm not wishing you bad luck. Relax. I said, woo woo. I'm just saying, More, when you look at the reality of the box that you're locking yourself into, you're actually creating the poverty that you're gonna live. Don't, don't lock yourself up into R1 million. It's not the best that you can do. Look for other opportunities. If you lose 100% of your 180,000 Rand, having invested in a business, having invested in whatever, at least you're just losing 180,000 Rand. You walk away with your hands in your pocket and no further debts. With this one, you walk away with interest. That comes from where? Just passage of time. You signed a piece of paper, the building didn't change, but the value of your loan went up by 43,000, then 42,000, then 41,000, then 40,000, just because time passed. Doesn't make sense to me. As a result, for those two factors, property is the riskiest investment. I've got more factors. Good luck convincing me otherwise. Um, I'm gonna take questions. George, I see you have to go. I'm happy. But I'm sorry I went so long. I think at 30 minutes I was already ready to take questions. But yeah, I can take questions, and if there are none, I can essentially close the live. And then, yeah, good luck to the people that are watching it on live. No questions. I cheers. Thanks a lot for joining, guys. Appreciate it a lot.